Come on in, welcome to my home. Today we are making 2 freezer meals, and there are a couple things I need to say from the beginning. One, if you are expecting this to be a how-to on how to correctly make tamales, it's not. The cool thing about this is these freezer meals that I'm making, the lasagna rolls and the tamales, are the first time that I have ever made these. So you get to see me make them for the first time. Then you also get to see my opinions of them, because I've had tamales before. In fact, I had a student back when I was teaching college. His mother made tamales and he brought some in for us. And oh wow, I love them instantly, like absolutely love them. And I've always wanted to make tamales, but I've always been like sort of intimidated by the idea of making tamales. So that's why I'm stressing this is not a tutorial on how to make tamales. I guess it is a tutorial on how to make tamales. But if you're looking for something that is authentic, that is wonderful, and I don't know how authentic these are, but yeah, you'll see how wonderful they are. The recipes are linked down below in the description. Both of the recipes are from Southern Living magazine. It is just... let's get into it. I'm going to use the voiceover to let me explain how I did this, because there were some substitutions and some things that I'll explain to you as I go along. So let's jump into voiceover me. We are going to start our tamales, chicken tamales, by cooking the chicken. In that is 2 chicken breast. There are the onions, peppercorns. I am using sea salt. That's why I did the 2 teaspoons of sea salt. And then you're supposed to have cloves of garlic. I did not. I had pre-diced garlic, so I used that instead, and I think it worked out just as well. Then we add our water, and like I've said, the recipe is linked down below in the description. Once you do all that, you then cover it and bring it up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, then you simmer it and you let it cook. I think it smells really good, simply because I love the smell of garlic and onions and everything. So then we take the chicken out of our now chicken broth and we set it aside to cool just a bit. Let it cool. Trust me on this one. I am draining my chicken broth because you want to get rid of the solids, but you need that chicken broth to make the masa. So that way you get that. I just drained it with a strainer into a heat-proof vessel, and then it was ready to go. So that way I could use it later. It does tell you how much chicken broth you do need in the recipe. Now I'm putting my corn husk into hot water. This was interesting because I thought, sure, the recipe calls for 18, but you probably can get more out of it. No, it calls for 18. I should have used 18. There was no point in me having more than 18 of these in there. So you then heat them up, let them sit and soak in the hot water for, I think it is about an hour, but you have to check the recipe. And you want to make sure that these things actually stay submerged. You want to make sure that by the time that all this time has passed, that they are then pliable, because you're going to have to fold them, and you want to make sure that you can fold them. So once again, always check and make sure that they are actually getting down into the water. Then it's time to shred our chicken. I should have let my chicken cool a little bit more, but I did not. So then I remove the chicken skin, all the bones, those sort of things from the chicken. You're going to discard the skin, you're going to discard the bones, but you're going to try to get as much of the meat off of the bones as you possibly can. I could have done a better job had I let the chicken cool more. So when you do this, please let your chicken cool more. Once it is cooled, then you are ready to keep going. Because once it's cooled, you can then take your forks and you will then take that and shred your chicken. I used 2 forks to shred my chicken. You can use however you are used to shredding chicken, whatever works for you. It just depends. For some people, they're going to find that the forks works the best method. For other people, there are devices, some kind of really cool devices that you absolutely can shred your chicken with, and that's a lot of fun. But you need that chicken shredded so that then we can go on to the next step, which is making our, we're going to then cook our chicken. So you need to drain your tomatoes. You're adding the chicken back into the pan, and then you're adding your peppers. I should have chopped those. I did not, but it still came out really, really good. I don't know why I didn't chop them, but I should have chopped them more. Then we are going to cook this. You want to cook this, and I forgot to originally add the liquid. You'll notice that I do add the chicken stock back in there. And so, yeah, see, I forgot it. Adding it back in there. So then we are now going to make our masa. That is masa harina. Then you add chicken stock to it. It says you can mix this up with a whisk. I did not have much luck mixing this up with a whisk. So I'm like, yeah, we're going to switch over to a spoon pretty darn quick. So then, once I switched over to a spoon, it did mix up a lot better. And I do mean a lot better. Then you are going to take this and you're going to start adding it to your stand mixer. Your stand mixer is going to become really handy on this step, because when you do the oil and the masa, I think it's still masa harina at this point, because it doesn't have the oil added to it. Once you start adding those things in together, then you are ready to go. And I do mean you are literally ready to go. So what is interesting is I thought originally that I wasn't going to need to do this by the whole dropping it by the tablespoon into the oil, because I think it says to drop it by 2 tablespoons into the oil. You need to do that. Do that step, drop it by the 2 tablespoons into the oil, because it makes a world of difference. It is much easier to blend. Do I think that you need a stand mixer? Yes. I can't imagine how hard this would have been to do by hand, but I know for a fact that there are lots and lots of people who do this by hand, but I also know for a fact that there are lots and lots of people who probably make tamales, which are so much better than mine. I mean, not probably, they do. But for my first attempt at making tamales, this was a ton of fun, and it did take quite a few steps, but all of the steps were absolutely worth it, because the end result was just amazing. Once you get your masa all made, then you are ready to go on to the next steps, which are really, really easy, because our next steps are basically assembling. We need to dry off our corn husk. I use just a towel and then a napkin. I have cloth napkins to dry off the corn husk. And then you want to go through and make sure all of your corn husks are as dry as you possibly can get them. I did mine, I think I got them as dry as I needed to, but I will not swear to that. It was a lot of fun. I put mine just on a plate once they were dry, because I found that if they get too cold, they do not bend real well. And you need them to bend. You need them to bend fairly well. Now, as I was like you can see, there's way more than 18 corn husk there. Don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes. Follow the recipe. The recipe is correct. 18 corn husk will do just fine. Then once the corn husks are all dry, we're ready to start setting up our station to make these. These are so easy to make. I just put my corn husk down, put my masa on there. You need to spread a thin layer of masa on there. I should have used an offset spatula. That would have made life so much easier, because the spoon, I personally didn't think that it spread it real well. It was kind of hard. I had some difficult times with it, but I did it. I got it on there. And it's just so good when you look at everything which goes into it, the baking powder and the salt and everything in that. And honestly, I could probably eat the masa just as is, as a dip. Now I'm taking my chicken mixture, putting that in there. The fold is really simple, and this is the fold that they suggested: folding over, and then bending the bottom up. I was originally going to put mine into the colander, into the steamer, but I decided not to. But a close-up shot of this, you can see that, yeah, an offset spatula would have spread this easier. And you don't want to go all the way to the top with it because this does expand. Then once you put your meat mixture in the center, don't go too generous because you do have to get it all in there. Then you just fold it over, and then fold it up. I've seen people who can tie these with corn husk. They tie it. They look amazing. Then I just went through and did all of them. It was such an easy process, and I mean such an easy process, it's not even funny. I think this is one of those things that you could probably do much faster than I did. But the result is really cool because before you know it, you have an absolute stack, and I mean stack of these things ready to be steamed so that they can become, I think, really, really good chicken tamales. Now, I'm sure that there are other people who add all sorts of different things to them or do them in different steps. I don't know. I've only done these. Like I said, this was my first time doing these. So once they were all, and it did take a while. I'm not going to lie to you. Getting all of these all wrapped up and everything took a good amount of time. And it also took a good amount of dishes. That was the one thing I did notice about all of these things is I had a tendency to go through most of the dishes that I had, which was absolutely fine because, I mean, you can clean them. And I cleaned off my counter quite often so that nothing would, you wouldn't have your corn husks stained with tomato sauce and that sort of thing. Once they are all ready to go, you will put them into your steamer. This steamer I'd just gotten, it was really cool. So then I put them in the steamer and then you steam them. You want to steam them so that they actually get done and they taste so good. These are really cool. So the tamales were really good, and I mean really, really good. It surprised me how good they were. Are there a few things that I would do differently? Of course, like I said, there are a few things I would do differently now that I've made them one time. Will I make them again? Oh yeah. I'll make them again because they were so good. They were just amazing. I can hardly wait. Now, the cool thing about this is if you do 3 tamales and you get 18 tamales total, you can then have 6 meals. I just wrap mine up in aluminum foil, put them into the freezer, and now I have, 4 meals left that I can then pull out of the freezer whenever I want to have tamales. I did label them and everything. But yeah, freezer meals, I highly recommend it. Alright, let's jump on to the lasagna rolls. Alright, let's get going with these. First thing to do is you need to cook some stuff. So we are heating up our pan and putting in the oil. Once the oil is in, I did not have sweet onions, so I had to substitute. The onions are actually red onions. I know, it's a substitution, but it was all that I had at that moment, which it still worked out just as well, but it would have been better to have the regular onions that they do call for. And make sure that you do dice them up well. I did not dice mine up well. Mine were more chopped. So, yeah, that was the thing. Then, once again, did not have cloves of garlic, so I had to use prepared garlic. And you add that in there, and you want to cook this down till everything is nice and sort of browned. It looks really good. It smells really good. Don't forget to add your pepper. And this is the easy part. This is a simple sauce that you are making because the nice part about this is it calls for just a regular tomato basil prepared sauce, and that's what I used, was just a regular tomato basil prepared sauce. Put that in there and let it simmer and bubble away. And you want to make sure that it simmers long enough so that everything melds together so that it tastes amazing. You can then add your different spices in there. Remember to add the spices, including that was sugar. A lot of these things are not sweet enough at times, because a lot of people say, add sugar into your tomato sauce, it will make it taste better. I do believe that that is true for some tomato sauces. Other tomato sauces you can live without it, but for these, it needed it. It needed the sweetness. So tasting as you go along is really important. Then we let this cook, and we just let it simmer. It cooks away. Now we are ready to start our filling. The filling was easy because you're starting off with room temperature cream cheese. Then you are going to add your ricotta cheese to that and mix those up. And you want to mix those up really well. That's the whole big thing. Make sure that you are getting your ricotta and your cream cheese combined so that way you don't have weird separations. I made sure, and I did this with a spoon, made sure that it was all well before I went on to the next step. And it did take a while because the ricotta, for whatever reason, just didn't seem to want to mix in with the cream cheese. So that's a thing. Then you have to get ready, and I should have done this beforehand. You want to make sure that you add those artichoke hearts. You want to make sure that you have your egg beaten so that way when you add it into your mixture, it is all ready to go. And it was really simple. I mean, once the egg was beaten, I added it into my mixture, and then I made sure, and I really doubly made sure, that everything was mixed in together, including the upcoming cheese. You don't want to forget to make sure to mix in your cheese and then also your basil. I could have very easily ripped my basil leaves into larger pieces. And in fact, I was worried that I didn't have enough basil because I had to actually go out and buy some basil because I did not have enough at all, which is sort of a sad thing. But once you have those things mixed up and there we're adding our cheese, and you notice I'm not 100% measuring these things because, I've cooked enough that I can pretty much eyeball what these, how much you're adding to it. But like I said, mix it up really well. Once it is mixed up really well and you have scraped the bottom of the bowl, you've made sure that everything is incorporated, you're now ready to consider making these things together. Greasing your pan is really important. You want to make sure that your pan is nice and greased and spread. I'm using olive oil to grease the bottom of my pan that I'm going to be putting my rolls on the bottom. But you want to make sure that that is nice and greased so that nothing, absolutely nothing will stick to it, because that's the important part. You don't want it to stick. You don't want it to burn. So, and I found that I did not have any burning problems with these whatsoever. So once the pan is all nice and greased, we're ready to start our assembly process. This is the only thing which a lot of people talk about this recipe, which is weird. They tell you to use uncooked noodles, but then in the time, they don't give you how long you're supposed to cook your noodles for. So you're using cold noodles that have been drained. You spread your mixture on top of the noodles, and then once it is nice even coat of mixture, you then roll it up. One of the things which I did not like about this recipe is what I consider one of the big sins of recipes, when it's like, add this ingredient, then add the next 4 ingredients. Well, okay, I don't always know what the next 4 ingredients are in a recipe. Tell me what the next 4 ingredients are. Because if I've already gone through and have all my ingredients laid out, then I had to flip back and see what the next ingredients were. No, I really, really, really don't like that when they do that. But rolling them up is very, very straightforward. I noticed I didn't have any squeeze out or anything. Then you're ready to assembly line process them and get them all rolled up and put into the pan. That went so fast, and I mean so fast. It was unbelievable. Then once they are all in the pan and you are all ready, you're ready to just top them with your sauce. The sauce it tastes so good. The sauce was so good. Then I just poured it over the top of the sauce, poured it over the top of the rolls, and we were ready. We were absolutely ready to then bake them. Baking them was straightforward. You could not get any more straightforward than this. Once they go into the oven, I do believe it's 350, I do believe, and you were baking them for about 40 to 45 minutes. so that way when they come out just all nice, and they come out and they're all nice and steamy, and you're just waiting. I let mine cool a little bit because, as you can see, there's steam. There's steam rolling off. And even without the steam, there's still a lot of steam even once they have cooled. But they were so, so good. I mean, they not only look good, they taste really, really good. And I mean, like, really good. Once again, I wrap those up. So, I mean, you get 10. I did 2 per meal, I guess you would say. A serving of 2. So that would mean that you would get 5 servings total. Wrap them up in aluminum foil. Oh, they were so good. And it's something I can pull out in the recipe descriptions. It tells you how you can heat them up again. Those instructions do work. They work wonderfully, and they are so good. They tasted almost as good as they did fresh. But yeah, I can hardly wait to make these again. It was so much fun. And now that I know how to make tamales, and I have most of the stuff to make tamales, I'm going to do it again. This is going to become part of my normal everyday. It's going to become part of my normal menu planning because I liked making them. It was really fun. Taste so good. And now that I have a good grasp on how to make them, well, not a good grasp, but I have somewhat of a grasp on how to make them, I can improve as things go along. And I can make sure that I have all the correct ingredients, just like is listed in the recipes. But oh man, I mean, I can honestly say those were really, really good. I can hardly wait to make some more, and we'll be doing more freezer meals coming up. But I hope you enjoyed this. At this time, I'd like to thank these people who let me do things like make freezer meals. And happened on a Saturday and Sunday where I made these, and so I highly recommend making your meal, freezing the extras into individual sized packages so that way you can serve them. But these people are wonderful. They keep me going. They help this channel move forward. And I have some big plans for projects that I'm hoping to be able to get enough money to do those. If you want to be part of the communities, there is YouTube membership. There is also Patreon. Either one of those supports me, but if you also really want to help to support this channel, you can like and share this video. And did you know that watching a video all the way through is also another great way to support a channel? So that way it lets YouTube algorithms know that it is a good video. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I get to see you again the next time you stop by.